Can Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows teach you how to make your brand visible again? Let's find out.
The Invisibility Cloak, the Resurrection Stone, and the Elder Wand. Together, the Deathly Hallows, which makes the possessor the master of death. This draws a brilliant parallel with today's social media economy. Like Voldemort was chasing the Elder Wand without understanding its real power, that led to his ultimate defeat. Young creators and brands are making the same mistake. They set too much in store with the algorithm and the Elder Wand. The most powerful wand and the most powerful mathematical formulas become their obsession. They try to game the algorithm to master the platform. But you see, the platform isn't just the Elder Wand. It's the invisibility cloak, aka what makes your audience actually discover you. And it's the resurrection stone that is bringing back the audience you've lost. So if you're just chasing your algorithm in the trenches of Normangaard or by torturing Grigorovich's family, you're ultimately going to lose to the most shallow bully in the playground in the shape of Draco Malfoy. So for all the young Potterheads out there, can you fix your content strategy by learning from the Deathly Hallows? So starting with the first Hallow, how can you harness the power of Harry's invisibility cloak for your content strategy?
Now, here's the interesting thing. You're actually going under the invisibility cloak, which is a strength, because then you can trial out new ways of communicating with very small audiences, maybe even an audience of one, to understand what the reaction is. Most brands don't do it like that. They are out there and visible and contributing to the noise, creating generic content which they think that must be perfect at step zero. But if you go under Harry's invisibility cloak, and if you're trying to, trial things out, try something more bold, try something more radical, try something which is controversial even maybe, and see whether it's working, you're still under the invisibility cloak because the platform will allow you that invisibility cloak. Yeah.
But how does that work for the brands that already have a certain following?
What you can do, like, this is what's happening with Instagram and Threads right now. So if you're on Instagram and if you have a lot of following, but if you want to trial your content out with new followers, what Instagram is allowing you to do is put it on Threads. Okay, which means that you're not going to reach to people who are already your audience. So there can be different new solutions of doing something like that.
Right. And this is where the cross-platform strategy can come in the picture, rather than having one content amplified across several platforms. Why don't you just actually use that interest-based algorithm, interest-based media shift that's happening with social media now to test which audience actually strikes as your lowest hanging fruit? I think one of the major problems is brands are creating content for themselves and not their audience, which is why there is zero engagement, no comments. Not, the social media isn't favoring them, right? We're talking at people, not with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, the invisibility cloak isn't a protection. It's becoming like an isolation.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of what an invisibility cloak does. Right now, if I look at what is really happening, you said something critical. You said brands are talking at an audience, which means that the audience is a static fixed entity in their minds. They have nothing, they have no progress, they are going to remain the same, and they're going to respond to your stimuli just the way in which they would have, and that doesn't work. What actually works is you have to accept that the audience or your person is changing every single day, and your person is actually responding to the day, the weather, the everything else. And unless and until your brand is alive enough for you to do that, you will stay invisible.
Yeah. In one of our earlier discussions, we had thought of, user persona. We make one static user persona and we stick to it till the end. What we don't take into account is that your audience is changing. Their psychology is changing every day. As they're learning, as they're interacting with more brands, your invisibility cloak keeps getting denser and denser because you are not keeping at pace with them. Right. So you are just creating content with that old playbook or whatever, that old social media manager might have told you.
So let's define what the old playbook is and what the new playbook is. So the old playbook was that each platform is a social media, right? Or a social medium. Now the social medium means that people get there to interact with other people and stuff like that. Now that has completely changed. Why I'm going to social media is to entertain myself or to educate myself, and it is interest based. And that shift has rapidly happened, and even on a platform like Instagram. So this means that if I'm putting it out there for the typical old playbook to work for me, which means that, okay, I'll put a piece of content and then somebody will share it and people will talk about it, it is not going to work at all. What will work is if my content is speaking to your interest and to your interest of the day, of the hour, of the minute.
Now, because of this rigmarole, a lot of brands have already lost some very valuable followers and subscribers, which brings us to our second Hallow. how to use the resurrection stone to bring your subscribers back to life.
I think the critical aspect about bringing somebody back to life is maybe finding a new way of connecting to your customer, right? Finding a method, a hook which goes beyond the way in which you have been absolutely communicating in one unidimensional linear way. What do you think? Do you have an example for this?
So I have a great example for a reactivation campaign that we had run a while back for a mobile gaming app, right? So the audience was casual gamers, and we used to hound them with play with friends, social angle, all of that stuff. So for our new reactivation campaign, we took a new feature that was only for the core users, and we completely changed the narrative from social angle to competitive gaming, right? And we ran the campaigns for the performance marketing happened. We also ran them on different touch points like the push notifications. We ran email campaigns. We got our customers on every touch point, and we spoke their language.
Hmm.
The result was immense. We got in 15 days, we got 20% reactivations of our old customers, and all of these were core players with like 25 million bets and all of that.
So let's now talk about the third deathly hallow, which is the elder wand. Now, how do you actually understand the elder wand in this particular instance? It is nothing but understanding the algorithm, right? The algorithm that your social media stands for. Brilliant example, Janavi, when you spoke about the way in which you changed the way you talk with the customer, and that is connecting to their interests rather than yours and your preconceived notions about how your audience is going to behave. But now, how do I kind of put this on steroids and start using the algorithm to make that impact?
So first of all, for understanding the algorithm, you have to understand what a social media platform really stands for.
Mm.
Instagram is all about the time on app. LinkedIn is about professional engagement. TikTok wants, say, the completion rates, right? You have to understand what each social media platform's say inherent goal for themselves is. Why would they want the audience or the creators or the people who are maybe doom scrolling on the platform? What action would they want them to take? So that once you understand that, then you understand the algorithm. Now, for example, if you use a similar kind of algorithm you're using on Instagram, which is your consistency or your engaging hooks or your meme content, that's not really going to work on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is all about professional engagement, and professional engagement comes from value added content. So while LinkedIn wants very personalized stories of your experiences, if you start with a hook like, this is what I did with the company that brought this X amount of millions in my account or whatever, the same kind of hook on Instagram might just be how to make $15 million from an agent here, right? So the hook completely changes here with understanding what the platform really stands for and why the audience is on that platform.
Yeah, Instagram success is that if it allows for, see, I'm coming on Instagram for a reason, and then I'm seeing a channel for another sub reason, and then I'm following some person for even one more sub reason. So there are levels of interests over there within Instagram as well. And what you're doing is that you have to create a world for your brand on that specific platform, which means that you need to understand how interests are working, and then the algorithm is must be understood as your friend rather than your enemy. Because most of the times we are complaining about the algorithm, oh, the algorithm is screwing me, but actually what you have to do and understand is probably take what Janavi is saying as base and then build on it maybe a little more. If you look at Instagram, it is all about, say, let's say the cult of personality. Or if you look at TikTok, it is all about connecting to like-minded people. If you look at YouTube, it's something else. So if you understand the brand essence and the interests that people go with on that particular platform, you will be able to take a head start. So understanding the algorithm is about understanding that Instagram is the cult of personality, and so you will build something on top of that for your brand to stand out.
Yeah, and the mindset with which the person is going on that platform, right? The speed at which the person wants to engage with the content. Now, somebody coming on YouTube comes with the mindset that I'm going to spend 20-30 minutes at least watching one video. So, same person on Instagram will never want to spend 30 minutes on Instagram. They might end up, but they'll just want to keep, doom scrolling after 7-8 seconds. So, your content, your hook, that needs to speak accordingly.
So if you look at the way in which YouTube functions with the first 7 seconds being the hook, then 7 to 25, kind of, you living up to the hook. So why does YouTube do that? Actually, YouTube does that because YouTube is all about discovering new interests and stuff like that. So it is allowing you to discover things very quickly and rapidly. And so therefore you have to connect to that algorithm in order for your content to stand out. Now, if I look at Instagram, for instance, or TikTok, what they do is that they sample your content and then they push it out to a lookalike audience, and they see whether there is enough traction with what the platform thinks potential audiences would be interested of your content. If it works, it pushes out to some more people. If it works, it pushes out to some more people. So you have to literally understand how each Instagram or YouTube or TikTok's elder wands actually work.
The recent change in algorithm that LinkedIn did took back content creators millions of dollars over building their business over LinkedIn. The simple reason, and it took around 3 to 4 months, even for us, to try to figure out again, right, what the algorithm really is. The impressions, they took a dip by around 80-90%. The kind of posts that we used to engage with, or the kind of people that we used to see, we weren't seeing anymore. It was another form of shadow banning that was happening on LinkedIn. So in this situation, if you're just chasing the algorithm, right, you're never going to be able to understand why LinkedIn changed it, what the new algorithm was supposed to be, what new shift LinkedIn was bringing in. Even today, while again the algorithm has been changed at the back end without any proper announcement by the LinkedIn team, even now people are trying to scrambling to understand what the new algorithm is all about, right? And it took us a lot of experimentation with one format of our post, with the video format itself, to try to understand what LinkedIn is now trying to do and how it has shifted in the last 1 week.
I think, Janavi, brilliant example. Let's just add to this LinkedIn thing, right? If
Yeah.
I look at what LinkedIn was changing to, we were wondering whether only a text-based post or a or a text plus carousel sort of thing will work, or a video thing will work, or a short video will work, and we were probably just reducing the impressions that we were having.
Yeah.
And now, if I look back in hindsight and try to figure out, we're obviously thankfully getting a little more traction on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn was trying to serve an interest, or trying to figure out whose interest they were serving over this period of time. And one of the key aspects that probably LinkedIn was trying to fight was a lot of people on LinkedIn are giving AI driven generic content, which
Yeah.
is more towards the Facebooky sort of thing rather than more on. So maybe that's one thing that the algorithm was trying to solve. It was trying to protect the original users of LinkedIn.
And the second thing that we tried that really worked well for us, that has started giving us the kind of engagement, at least some of the engagement that we had lost, was fixing our ICP, right? So you and I, we had a very good workshop between the two of us of who our ideal customer persona really is. Who do you speak to? Who should I speak to, right? And once we fixed that, obviously that took us a while to try to figure out what kind of language to speak, what kind of content will actually resonate with that audience. But I think that has been the key turner for us. That is what led to this engagement. And now that we are now the another algo fix has happened with LinkedIn, suddenly our content is starting to see the kind of traction it used to see in the earlier days. And I think one major thing that we have fixed has been the ICP, which brings us to the interest-based audience thing,
Yeah.
which I think that LinkedIn has done now, which they hadn't done in the earlier days. It was all the people you followed. LinkedIn showed you the content, the similar content of the people they followed. But now that has drastically changed. It is more about interest based
Yeah.
than the people based.
Absolutely, and therefore LinkedIn maybe in the last 6 months was all about engaging with your existing followers through the clutter, but now today you can probably get more discovered as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the but you need to use the elder wand for that.
So for all the Potterheads out there, if you had to explain the Deathly Hallows strategy to your CEO, how would you?
So I would first not look like Voldemort the way in which I'm looking right now, but I'm imagining that your boss is a Potterhead, then this is the way in which I would explain the Deathly Hallows strategy. The first thing is use the invisibility cloak well, because what you're doing is that you're going under the invisibility cloak and trialing out new stuff with new audiences, lookalike audiences, without really garnering attention of your existing audience. So be safer under the invisibility cloak and trial out new things. Then you look at the resurrection stone, which is nothing but actually kind of reconnecting with your audience after learning from whatever you got from the invisibility cloak, and making sure that you connect in the nice tone and manner and the language and the way in which the tonality that Janavi, you spoke about, connected back. And then maybe shift to a place wherein we are looking at how can the elder wand help me, which is nothing but the algorithm. What is the elder wand for Instagram? And if your boss is a Potterhead, he might just go for it. If your boss isn't a Potterhead, maybe give him a book.